Well, it's a beautiful sunny summer's day, so I thought rather than make a film about business from my home studio, I'd come out into the park quite close to where I live and do an outdoor film instead. And it has its advantages and disadvantages. The obvious disadvantage is it's quite windy and it's making an absolute mess of my hair. But I've just given in on my hair. And to be honest, the most important thing isn't the state of my hair, it's the business advice that I'm going to give you. Because this one piece of business advice could be the difference between your business succeeding or failing. And if you're not already taking, I mean, some people will be taking this advice anyway, but if you're not already doing what I'm going to suggest that you do, then it could potentially be the difference between you just eking a living, just making enough money to survive on, and being really successful. In fact, if you do this one thing that I'm going to suggest, it could potentially treble or even quadruple the income of your business within the space of literally just a few months. And I'm being completely serious now. So, in order to explain what you should do, I'm going to give a story, a true story, about a young female entrepreneur who I used to be doing some mentoring and coaching work with about 15 years ago. And I'll tell you the punchline first. The woman concerned actually failed. Her business did not succeed, and she ended up folding the business and getting a job. But there's one thing she was doing wrong. And to be honest with you, the reason she failed was because she didn't take my advice, which would have made all the difference between success and failure. So I've told you the punchline, and that is she failed. But now I'm going to tell you why she failed and what that advice was that she didn't take from me, because if she'd taken the advice, she would now still be running a very successful business. So just to give you a bit of background, she was only 22 years old. She was straight out of university. She couldn't get a job, so she decided to set up her own business. And the business that she set up was an events organising business. She was organising corporate events. And the reason she'd chosen to set up an events business is because she was running events while she was at university, and she was doing it very successfully. She was very good at organising events. So she thought, well, I'm good at doing it at university, so why not just set up a business running corporate events? Which is what she did. And she did everything right. I mean, she'd set up a limited company, she got an accountant, she got nice office space next door to my office in Leeds city centre. So she'd done everything that she needed to do, and she'd got clients as well. She actually had quite a bit of business, she had quite a bit of work. But the problem is she wasn't making enough money. She was basically getting the sales, but she wasn't making enough money to live off. Now, I know that a lot of business coaches and mentors would say the problem is she's not charging enough. I see this all the time on the internet, on LinkedIn, on all these social media sites. You get business coaches saying, oh, you're not charging enough, you're not charging enough. And with respect to them, that isn't necessarily the problem. Sometimes people aren't charging enough. Sometimes, to be fair, people should put their prices up. But I think there's a more fundamental problem that isn't necessarily to do with pricing, because I think most businesses actually do already charge the right price. The problem is about the way that she had structured her business. So to explain, she had got a business model where she was organising corporate events, things like conferences and training events for companies, corporate events in places like hotels and other conference venues. She'd be booking the venue, booking the catering, maybe a bit of entertainment, DJ, bit of music, sometimes security, sometimes hotel rooms, that kind of thing. She'd book everything. And then she would charge the client an hourly fee. So I can't remember what the fee was. It's probably something like 50 quid an hour. This is 20 years ago. She'd probably be charging £100 an hour now for her time. And she'd be invoicing the client for that work she'd done. So if she'd done 10 hours work and she was charging 50 quid an hour, then obviously she would bill them for £500. Now, this is all very well and good, but if you are going to use that kind of business model, then all you're doing really is you're not actually running a business. You have created for yourself a self-employed job. That's all you're doing. You've just created a job for yourself. And that means you're not really a business owner. And it's amazing how many people say they're in business who actually aren't in business at all. They're just self-employed. They're basically, even if they employ other people, if you are adopting that business model, then what you're doing effectively is just creating a job for yourself, and that's what she'd done. So this was my advice to her. This is the important bit. I said to her, you've got to find ways to get multiple streams of income out of what you're already doing, because you can end up making more money from the other streams of income than from the actual time that you're spending on the business. And she didn't get it. So I explained. I said, well, look, at the moment, you're booking hotels, you're booking conference venues, you're booking caterers, you're booking guest speakers, you're booking entertainment, all of that kind of stuff. And the client is basically just paying you for your time. But the client is being billed separately for all these other things. So the hotel was sending a separate invoice, the caterers were sending a separate invoice, the entertainers were sending separate, everybody was sending a separate invoice. All she was invoicing for was the amount of time that she was spending on the business. And I said, well, why don't you just lump it all together and give the client one big invoice for everything? And she said, and this is the reason that she failed, she said, because I'm scared, I'm frightened. And what she was frightened of was if something went wrong, she will be footed with the bill. So for example, if there was something wrong with the food, or if the conference got cancelled, then the caterers would still want paying, the hotel would still want paying, the venue would still want paying. And she wasn't prepared to take that risk. She wasn't prepared to say, look, if we lump it all together, I can make a lot more money. So she wasn't running a business. She was basically just doing a job. She'd created a job for herself. It absolutely amazes me how many people think they're running a business, but they're using this business model, which is basically just being self-employed. And the opportunities to turn your business into something really big, something special, don't come with the amount of hours that you work. They don't come with the amount you charge. And obviously, I do accept that some people aren't charging enough, but that isn't the problem. The big problem is people are not spotting opportunities to have multiple income streams related to their business. And this was her problem. If she had booked the caterers herself, she could have negotiated a good price and then added that money onto her invoice. Likewise, the venue, negotiate a good deal with a venue. Perhaps look at several different venues, play one off against the other and get the best possible deal you can. Likewise with the hotels. If you're booking multiple hotels for multiple corporate clients, you can get big discounts, you can negotiate a good price, but then you can still charge the client the full amount. So you can lump all this together, you can have add-ons, you can double or treble your income while doing the same amount of work. And she just wouldn't do that because she was scared to do it. And I've always adopted that policy in my business. In my other life, when I'm not making YouTube films, I run a marketing agency, and we particularly specialise in printed materials, so graphic design, brochures, publications, leaflets, old-fashioned marketing. And I always insist on doing the printing myself. I don't physically own a printing company, but I work with a lot of white label printers, and I negotiate a really good price with them. Now, the price I charge the client is going to be the same as what they'd pay anyway if they organise the printing themselves. So that the clients are happy, because at the end of the day, the clients aren't paying any more, they're still paying the same price. The printer's happy because they're getting a lot more work with guaranteed upfront payment, because I pay upfront to the printer, so they don't have to worry about 90-day invoices and all that rubbish. I pay them upfront. The client's happy because they're getting what they would want anyway, which is good quality marketing print work at a decent price. And I'm happy because I've negotiated a really good print deal, and I can add that on to my invoice. And in some cases, I have literally trebled and quadrupled my bill to the client just on the back of the print work. In fact, in many cases, the money I make from the print management is a lot more than the actual graphic design and work that I've put in. And this is the whole point. If you want to scale up your business and turn it from just a job into an actual scalable company, then you have to find ways to create multiple streams of income from the business that you're already doing. And it just really frustrates me that people won't do that because they're scared of things going wrong. Well, if you're scared of things going wrong, then you shouldn't be in business in the first place. To be perfectly frank, if you're scared that the client's not going to pay, or you're scared that something will go wrong with your work, then you shouldn't be running your own company. The only way you can turn your self-employed job into an actual real business is by finding ways to scale up through multiple streams of income. And that means taking everything you do as a package and looking at ways you can add to that package for the client and charging the client for that work. If you don't do that, you're not running a business, you've just got a job basically, you're just self-employed. So you ask yourself this question: are you really running a business, or are you just self-employed? Because there's a big difference. And when you understand what it means to actually run a business, not just be self-employed, when you understand what it means to actually run a business, you can quadruple your income.